Hey guys, welcome to Dominate Fishing. I'm Dan Meyer, and I labeled today's video "The Struggle is Real" because the other day I was talking to a friend and he had just gone out walleye fishing. He had heard the walleyes are biting. He knows the fall is a great time to catch walleyes. He went out and he didn't catch any keepers. So, he was asking me, where do you fish for walleyes in the fall? And I think this is a struggle that a lot of people have. They don't know where to go out and catch, walleyes in the fall. They hear they bite well, but they don't know exactly where to go and catch them. So I'm going to give you two spots that you can go out and catch fish. So the first spot is you're going to go out and you're going to look for a lake basin. Actually, you're just going to look at a lake map and look for the basins. So what's going to happen is the shorelines, they're all going to start dropping down into a deep spot, and that deep spot, that's going to be the lake basin, the bottom of the lake. And you're going to look for water depths 25 to 35 feet. Somewhere in there, could be a little bit deeper, could be a little bit shallower, but that's kind of the range for a lake basin. Now, what's going to happen with these lake basins is the fish are going to be spread all out in this basin. So I would never recommend this for an ice fishing technique or a technique if you're going to anchor fish, because there's nothing to hold the fish into one concentrated area. In the basin, they're going to be spread all out. So what you're going to do is you're going to wind drift over this entire basin, the whole expanse. So that way you don't have to be right on the spot where all the walleyes are. You just have to float over little pods of fish, or a single fish here, a single fish there. And as you're making these big drifts, you'll pick up a couple walleyes. So, you're never going to sit in one spot and just hammer them, but you're going to pick up one here, one there, and, after a couple hours, you're going to have a nice mess of fish. So that's kind of the technique you can use in the fall fishing these basins. You're going to just wind drift. You're going to have a jig and a minnow and a big heavy weight to get that bait right down to the bottom, because it's going to be deep. When you're wind drifting, what's going to happen is the wind, as it's pushing your boat, it's going to start lifting your line up. So you need a real heavy bait to keep that on the bottom. And then you just drift over these basins, and you're going to pick up some fish here and there. You're not going to sit there and hammer them in one spot. Don't think you're going to, because when you're fishing a basin, the fish they're spread out because there's just nothing there to hold them into one concentrated area. But it's a pretty easy way to fish, because you don't need to know exactly where the fish are. You're just going to make these big long drifts, pick up a few fish here and there. So another technique, this technique is more more concentrated. The fish are going to be in a much smaller area, and that's to look on your lake map and find a shoreline with a real steep drop off. Maybe a shelf up on top, and then it drops off real steep down into a basin. And hopefully you got a nice long steep drop off coming on a shoreline. Come out on a point, go back in, bend around, keep going. What you're going to do is you're just going to get up and you're just going to snake up and down that drop off, all along the shoreline, out around the point, down the shore, down the bend, turn around, come back, and you're just going to snake up and down that drop off, because that's where these walleyes are going to be cruising. That's probably a better of the two techniques, because the walleyes are going to be more concentrated on that drop off. Just keep in mind, when you're fishing like this and it's getting to be late fall, you need to move real slow, because those fish, they're cold-blooded. When that water cools down, those fish are really going to slow down. So you're just going to real slowly snaking up and down that drop-off. You're going to need a trolling motor for this technique. It's real slow, maybe 0.3, 0.1, just real slow up and down this drop-off. Just bouncing this big, probably a big jig with a minnow. Rule of thumb for the fall, especially late fall, big bait, fish real slow. So you're going to put one of these big, toughy minnow, maybe a fathead. A fathead will work, but it might be a little small. Maybe a toughie, which is a big fathead. sucker minnow, a chub, just a real big minnow, hooked on this jig, bounce it right up and down the off the bottom, real slow up, real slow down, not a huge bounce. You only got to pull it up maybe a foot, maybe 9 inches, let it drop back down, or you can just drag it on the bottom as you're just working this point. That's a deadly technique. You'll get walleyes doing that, and you can get some big walleyes doing that. Be warned, if you're using that big bait with a big hook, when that walleye hits, if you got a 30-incher, you can set the hook. But most of them you're going to get a lot that aren't 30 inches. You need to give them time to get that bait, turned around and start going down before you set the hook, or you rip it out of their mouth. So when you're doing this technique with that big bait, you feel that bite, just hold it there. Just give them time to suck that bait right down before you set the hook. Because if you don't, if you just set the hook right away, you're going to end up jerking it out of their mouth more times than not. Feel that bite, give them some time, set the hook. Do that technique, you're going to catch walleyes in the fall. So I hope this video helps. If it does, hit the like button. Also, if this is your first time here, I'd love to have you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do videos just like this to help you catch more and bigger fish. So like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.